Hello again, Starvers. We are back with a new plan. First and foremost, let's rename the world to something more appropriate, and then let's dive back into it. So last time I wasn't really thinking from a lights out perspective. The new plan is that I'm going to hit the caves as soon as I can to make lanterns. I might even consider setting up an underground base in the caves, in the Mushroom Forest or the Lunar Grotto. Both of those have pretty consistent light sources. Unfortunately, I had 3 more of what I'm going to call false starts. So I'm going to just quickly haunt Chester, restart the world, and then I will run through just the key points of those false starts or failed runs. I don't want to make you guys watch the whole things. So I had 2 attempts last time. Here's the start of attempt 3. So, found the Pig King right away. He's sleeping as I expected. I decided to head to the caves pretty early, still on day 1. I decided to fight these bats, and I got chomped pretty good because of it. So I just ran down to the caves in fear. Picked up some light bulbs, did some exploration and stuff, headed back to the surface. Found these angry pigs, and left them alone. I killed a crawling horror, I killed some spiders. I ended up starting to starve, just like it tells you not to. So I had to eat some monster meat, which is not good at all. Went back to the starting zone through this wormhole to try and find some food. And ultimately, that didn't go very well. 0 sanity, so I got chomped by another crawling horror. So that's attempt 3. We'll restart and do attempt, I'm going to call this one 3.5. So I decided to take off all my skins and just be regular looking Wes. But when I loaded in, I was not at the portal, and there's no special chest with the goodies that you're supposed to get in Lights Out World, so this is just a hard reset, and that's why I didn't really count it. So now attempt 4. I do the quick resource gathering here at the intro, and then I made this balloon hat that Wes can make for really no reason. Now, looking at the map here, I can see that this is a twiggy tree world. I really should have just restarted, but I chose not to. I carried on. I killed a spider, killed a mole worm, killed another spider. There's the Pig King again. Again, he's completely worthless in this game mode, but there he is. So I found this cat, which is part of the Lunar New Year event. I didn't want him following me around, so I just pet him one time and then abandoned him forever. Sayonara. Down we go, this time fully ignoring the bats. Quick cave trip and back up. Again, we fully ignore the bats. Just run away, run away. So now I took damage because my hat exploded. I guess that's a thing that I didn't know about. So I get down to the caves where I've decided I'm going to do some crafting, and this is where I really can see that my twig shortage is pretty dire. So I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to craft, but I need to do something to get sanity back. So I craft some ropes and kind of juggle them around like embarrassingly long. It takes me a long time to put them into a stack for some reason. And so I then craft a log suit, so I have some armor on, and decide to explore the caves nearby to try and find some twigs. First I eat a bite. Now, I think sometimes you can get regular saplings in the caves, even when you have twiggy trees on the surface, but I didn't get that this time. It's twiggy trees all the way down. So, chop, chop, chop. See, now this next tree is dead. They have a life cycle of 4 stages, and the 4th stage is dead. So chopping it doesn't give anything at all. This is called foreshadowing in video editing. head back to the science machine to craft some of the essentials. So the backpack, must-have item. I make a bug net, which will come in handy for making a miner's cap eventually. And then I make the spear. It's now at this point that I realize making the spear used up my last 2 twigs, and I have a torch that's at like 11%, and that's really not going to get me very far. Found 1 more twiggy tree, which gives me 1 twig out of the 2 required to make a torch. So now I've got like a desperate plan where I'm going to run as far as I can and build a fire before Charlie gets me. I found 1 more twiggy tree, but of course it is the dead kind and is completely worthless to me. So I just kind of walk off into the darkness and let Charlie take me into a nice rosy embrace. And that ends attempt 4. Attempt number 5 gets going. Do the same tree chopping as usual right up front. Now at this point I can see on my mouse pointer that there are twigs on the ground, which means it's another twiggy tree world. Again, I've decided not to just restart, even though it's probably the better move. I go ahead and do some exploring. I mine some rocks, get some gold, and I head back underground. Grab more light bulbs. Head back up. So this time I successfully kill a terror beak. And I see the stage hand in the road, so I've got a pretty good idea that Chester's going to be nearby, so I'm going to head out and look for him. Disrespect Charlie by burning a rose, and then I find Chester at the same time. This time I actually put some items into him, unlike last time. Now I dodge a mosquito, dodge a tentacle, dodge a second tentacle, and I can see there's some combat going on, so I'm going to wait here for them to finish up and collect the spoils. Just kidding, I'm going to flee rapidly because of the tentacles. I'm in a panic. I'm running towards the shore and I shouldn't be. Okay, I've made it. Killed another terror beak. So now, personally, I think that he should have puffed away one more time after that last hit, but he didn't, so attempt 5 down the drain. So attempt 6 gets going. We get our chest. We've spawned in the right spot. So we start chopping some trees. Doing a little inventory management. Checking the map, and I see saplings instead of twiggy trees, so I'm feeling pretty good. Look, I can even mouse over a sapling. So, now because this run is not just an outright failure right from the start, I'm going to go ahead and show the whole thing. See there, I tried to do a /cheer emote and like make my character cheer, but it didn't work. I don't know if that's not a thing in this game. Actually, I don't use the emotes very often because I don't really, play with anybody very often. So while I'm doing this early game stuff that is not super duper engaging, I'm going to maybe talk about what I should do in the middle term, not quite long term, but also not the first couple days. So I'm going to try and get myself a good little launching pad in these first couple days, get myself the resources I need to have a fighting chance. I can see on the minimap this is a juicy berry world, which is cool. I like juicy berries. So I have a couple options for what I think I might want to do. So option one would be like a lunar rush, which is that I would have to kind of explore most of the surface world, figure out where I think the lunar island probably is, craft a boat pretty early, and get to the lunar island and back before the first winter. So on the lunar island, there's these stone fruit bushes, which could be super helpful to dig up and move back to the main island. Plus, there's kelp fronds that you can plant in the water near the main island. So this was a surprise for me here. I'll take a break for a second and discuss what's happening on screen. So I didn't expect to find this many pig guards and all these pig torches. So I feel like it's not in the spirit of the challenge to engage with these guys. Like, I'm not gonna fight them and get free pig skin or meat, and I'm not gonna use their torches for free light and stuff. That just seems to kind of trivialize part of the challenge, and it sort of goes against the spirit of what I'm trying to do here. But they're fun to see running around. There's not usually... I mean, they're pretty rare to see at all, and especially that many at once. So anyway, Lunar Rush, option one. Option two is a Ruins Rush. This feels safer to me because I've done it before, but it is technically not as safe. The ruins have a lot of dangers in them. You have to get through the caves to get to the ruins. The caves have a lot of dangers in them. But you can end up with a lot of really good items if you do pull off a successful Ruins Rush. There's items that can give you a lot of light, wide radius light, and light that moves with you, or light that you can just put in a spot and it stays there for a couple days. It's very cool stuff. And then you can also get some very strong weapons and armor. Weapons and armor that are great for killing bosses, which brings me to option three, which is a Dragonfly Rush. So I've never actually killed the Dragonfly, so this is definitely the least safe of the options. But I think winter's going to be a real chore in this playthrough because it's always night and it's always colder at night. So winter's going to be extremely cold. Wes gets colder than most other characters quicker. So killing the Dragonfly could give me a lot of an advantage in the fact that you can get the Scaled Furnace, which is an infinite heat source that you can place somewhere. And then there's also a small chance that you can get this little, like, larvae. It's like a larva, but lava-based. It's like a little wormy boy that can follow you around. And nobody ever uses them because they have a pretty high chance that they're going to burn your base to the ground. But they also put off infinite light and infinite heat. So that seems very appetizing to me, but it is only a small chance. It's like a 33% chance. So I haven't decided yet, and I'm not going to decide by the end of this video. So I grabbed some poo-poo there, and I'm going to put it under this other beefalo, and I'm going to light it on fire, because I'm curious to see if the beefalo will move if there's a fire under it. And it does. So this could be important information. Now, there are some heavy items that you have to move around the map later to do one of the boss fights. And it's much quicker to move them on a beefalo. But when beefalo are sleeping, you can't feed them. And when you can't feed them, you can't put a saddle on them. And when you can't put a saddle on them, you can't ride them. So the only other option is to hit one, and then it'll fight you. And I don't know if you can feed it shortly after that and have it join your team or not. So I think this lighting a fire under it thing is probably the way to go. Now here I'm fighting these spiders just kind of dancing around in the darkness for not really much of a reason, but I do kind of want some silk. There's one silk on the ground, 2 monster meat. Now it's too dark. I've decided to be more cavalier with burning trees. I've already been burning an awful lot of trees, as you've noticed, but I've been kind of trying to burn individual trees or like groups of 2 and not just burn a whole forest down. But I've also died 5 or 6 times in a row, and never once have I thought to myself like, oh boy, if I just didn't burn that forest down, I'd totally still be alive, you know? So I'm just gonna burn them down, and if it gets me a few days farther, it gets me a few days farther. Like, what's the difference? So you see there, I ran out of a weapon and I punched a spider to death. So, that, you know, is not something you do very often. It's kind of funny to see when it happens. Have enough silk to make a bug net now, but you need a lot of silk in this type of run. So I might farm a little bit more of it here. So here I'm pre-crafting the science machine, and then I don't put it down. So that takes the items out of your inventory space, so you don't have to carry them around, but they're pre-built into the science machine, and you can put it down later. I've looked at the map, and I got kind of scared about fighting this many spiders, so I think I just kind of give up here. But regardless, the science machine pre-crafting is very important for inventory management. You can do that with a lot of structures, and you can end up with a lot of materials that you're carrying around with you, but you don't have to be carrying them around in your actual inventory slots. This persistent spider wouldn't leave me alone, so sometimes they bring the fight to you, and you don't really have much of a choice but to fight them. I'm getting a lot of monster meat, which, as you saw earlier, I don't really want to eat raw because it does a ton of damage to you. So I just set it down. Technically, I could keep it with me because I will eventually make a crock pot, and the crock pot is a good way to turn monster meat into productive food that doesn't hurt you to eat it, but that's not going to be for a while, and in a world where it's always night and there's always spiders, I'm always going to have monster meat. So I open this lumberjack shirt, I decide to use it now, and then I look at how qWESt looks in it, and I decide not to use it now. So that's what happened there. Now I saw this like red treasure chest, and I want to get the contents of it, but to do that I really need to make a backpack so that I can carry the contents away. Now I also make a spear and a log suit, so I'm ready for combat, and I make the bug net so that I can catch a firefly. So you'll see there I had the bug net skin selected, but I went back to the non-skinned version. I do that sometimes, especially with items in your inventory, because I just get confused where I'm like looking for them. I do it with lantern a lot, which is very concerning when you're like looking for your light source, but because it has a different icon in your inventory, you can't find it. So this treasure chest is part of the crossover event that they did with Terraria, the game. So it's got the terrarium in it, and then like a few random items. You can get different stuff each time. But the terrarium is used to summon a boss, which I will have to fight eventually. I have never fought this boss before, but it doesn't look too hard, but those are probably famous last words. Now there's a couple different types of forest here. So this one, I'm running around in it. I'm not clear yet if this is the mandrake forest, which will have some mandrakes growing in it, or if it is the like McTusk and Moonstone forest. And I don't think I come to an answer on that, which leads me to believe that it's not the mandrakes, because I feel like I would have run over one by now. But I don't know, they're kind of small, and my torch doesn't put off a very big light source. You can see on the map the little marble statues and everything, and I could hear the clockwork knights grunting, or whatever you want to call it. I don't feel like dealing with them right now. They're hard to fight, and I just don't want to fight them. So I just decide to leave this area altogether. I caught my fireflies, which this is like the third time I've tried to say fireflies and have not been able to come up with the word. And then I hop through this wormhole just to kind of see where it takes me. I like to explore wormholes early on. Normally I like to put a little marker by them, like a trap or something, but I don't have very much in the way of twigs and grass, so I'm not going to do that. I'm trying my patented just leave the stagehand at this fire maneuver, where I just start a fire and then run away. And again, because the stagehand is here, that means that Chester is very likely to be nearby as well. So I'm going to look for him at least a little bit. I kind of have a rule of thumb where if it takes me like, I don't know, just a couple minutes. If it takes me a couple minutes to find Chester, I always get mad and I just leave him. And then I come back for him a few days later. It's probably not a good idea because you can save a lot of time by having Chester, so the amount of time I waste doing my little pouting is, probably tenfold worse than the amount of time if I just looked a little extra harder to find him. I'm at the end of the road. I'm lighting fires, but he's nowhere to be seen. There is another end of the road somewhere, so I'm going to look for it. Stagehand, damaging my real life sanity. I'm losing faith that Chester is going to be up here. It's so far from where the stagehand spawned, but I keep on keeping just to take a look. You never know. The game can really surprise you with where it chooses to put some things sometimes. Feel like I've looked for Chester enough in this little area, so I'm going to start heading back towards the Dragonfly Desert. It's a little more interesting of a place to explore. Plus I can get tumbleweeds there, which give me a lot more resources per gathering animation than like picking up individual twigs. Stagehand, stay here. I just can't give up on the little guy. He's got to be around here, so I'm going to start some bigger fires and see if I can find him. When it's been this long, I start getting real paranoid that I've already walked past him, but I had my camera angled the wrong direction, and that I couldn't see his eye bone through like one of these large deciduous trees or whatever. So I start spinning the camera and going over the same paths again, but from a different angle, so that hopefully I can get the correct vantage point to see him. And there we are, lo and behold, the eye bone. Now my inventory is chock-a-block full, so I'm going to put a couple things in Chester that make it a little easier to maneuver and to pick up those tumbleweeds I was talking about earlier. So Chester can die, and he'll drop his contents on the ground right where he dies. So sometimes it's not a very good idea to put like a firefly in Chester, because you're going to have to catch it again if he drops it. it'll just start floating around in the same spot, and you just have to use the bug net on it a second time. It's not that inconvenient. I put the bug net in there with him, so if he does happen to die, he'll drop the bug net right where he drops the firefly. Who cares? There's not that much to catch with a bug net in a lights out world. In a regular world, you can catch bees and make a beehive of your own, or you can catch butterflies and you can kill them and eat them, or you can plant them in the ground and they become flowers. But there are no butterflies in lights out, and the bees are just like really inconvenient to get. Like, you can light their beehive on fire with a torch and they'll come out, and then you can catch them, but there's not really that big of a point to it. So now here I've gotten the stagehand stuck on a lava pool, which is very cool because I don't think I can ever get her unstuck from there now, because it's an infinite light source, so my light source will never, be the only light source nearby. So that's nice. I don't have to worry about getting followed by her. I am getting followed by these hounds pretty aggressively, but they go away after a short while. They just, they have like a radius around their little hound homes that they'll come out of and try to bite you. Now, the game every so often will send hounds that are not associated with a hound mound like that. They just spawn no matter where you are, and they'll chase you down for quite a while. Those ones you really pretty much just need to kill, or you need to be near some other creatures that are hostile to hounds and will kill them for you. So I haven't found any of these fabled tumbleweeds that I keep talking about. There's one. So you bust them open and you get 3 things out of them. Look, butterfly wings. This is the only way pretty much to get butterfly wings. You can get them from a cat coon as well, I think, but I don't mess around with those things. They're not really worth it. Here's a regular berry on a juicy berry world, so can't do anything with it. It's not like I can plant it to get regular berries, but it's just interesting to see. This is a blueprint, so the crafting system has unlockable recipes. Like when I go to the science machine to craft a spear for the first time, then I can craft that spear anywhere after I've done it for the first time at the science machine. These blueprints just kind of cut out that step. You don't have to do something at the science machine or the alchemy engine, which is the level 2 science machine. And they also give you plus 15 sanity when you read them, so it's pretty helpful. Sometimes I'll keep them around as like backup sanity, but my sanity is so low right now that there's no reason to wait to use it. There's some seeds out of that tumbleweed, also exceedingly rare in Lights Out. So normally birds land and leave seeds behind, and then other birds land and eat those seeds. It's a never-ending cycle of seeds just kind of being dropped on the ground. You can pick them up and use them to plant crops and everything. But in Lights Out, the birds don't spawn because it's nighttime and they only come down in the day and the evening. So you have very little chance to get seeds in this world gen. Here's another blueprint. Rain hat. Bonus sanity is all I really care about for that. I don't use the rain hat hardly ever. There's a much better hat that you get for killing the winter boss, the Deerclops, and I do plan on doing that in the first winter, so it's not going to rain that much until spring. I'm not going to need the rain hat till spring, and I'll just do the Ibrella instead. Most of the seasonal bosses have an item that will help you with the next season. So the Deerclops you kill in winter, and then you get the Ibrella, which helps you with all the heavy rains in spring. The goose/moose you kill a lot of in the spring usually, and they have these down feathers that they drop, and you can make a fan to cool things off in the summer and to put out wildfires. In the summer, boss is technically the antlion. It was the dragonfly until they made so the dragonfly is just kind of a raid boss. Antlion's loot is not very good for solo play, and it doesn't really have anything to do with autumn, but autumn is the easy season that you don't really need any help surviving it. And then the autumn boss, the Barriger, drops his fur, and you can use the Barriger fur to craft some insulated stuff for surviving winter. So I'm going to successfully kill these bats this time with armor and a weapon. It makes a big difference to have armor and a weapon. Armor reduces the damage you take by, this log suit is by 80%. So, I mean, that adds up pretty quick when you're getting hit a couple times in a row. So, no real harm done. I'm going to load some stuff into Chester. Well, I guess I'm not. I'm going to heal up quick, and then I'm going to leave Chester up here. He can't come to the caves with you. So before I go in, I often try to figure out, you know, what I want to take with me versus what I want to leave on the surface. So down we go, grabbing his head a little bit, low sanity, but that's okay. You can tell your sanity's low because it plays a little music, and then your character grabs at their head, and then there's like those, I think of them like bloodshot eye type red squigglies on the top of the screen. So, no big deal. I got this crawling horror under control. I put on my armor just to be safe. I'm doing the attack, dodge, attack thing that is a little trickier to do, but is a little faster. I dropped my backpack quite far from those trees that were burning. The trees burning make great light, but they will light your backpack on fire and destroy all the flammable stuff that you have in your backpack. So that's something you gotta watch out for. Now my health's pretty full. I'm looking for something I can get rid of here. I was going to take that healing, but I don't need to, and I don't want to waste it. So I just drop a few useless items on the ground and keep on going. So I picked these light bulbs with the intention of using them to craft some stuff in a little while. Now, when you pick them, they obviously go out, and you can't stand in their light anymore. They'll grow in groups of 1, 2, or 3, as you can see on the screen. I typically try to just pick the 2s and 3s, because then it's one animation to get 2 or 3 light bulbs instead of one animation for one light bulb, so it's more efficient from a time standpoint. I can hear the sanity sound effect again, so I'm starting to think that my trip down to the caves is coming to an end, and I'm going to go ahead back to the surface. There's a crawling horror, so I don't remember if I take him out or if I just leave. Looks like I'm going to fight him. Oh, but then he disappeared. Sometimes they do that. I don't know if it's because he was on top of that fire and started taking fire damage, but he just disappeared. So sometimes that's great because you don't want to fight him. Other times it's kind of annoying because I would have liked to have gotten the sanity back from defeating the crawling horror because they're easier to defeat than, say, a terror beak, for example. So I ate all those flower petals. They give you +1 health each, and they were just taking up an inventory slot that I didn't really want to waste. Up I go. Grab the eye bone so Chester will follow me, and then I'm taking a look at the map. Try to figure out where I want to go now that I've looked at the Dragonfly Desert. Get the full tummy. Made another science machine but didn't put it down. Youchies. Terror beak. More like terror sneak up behind you and bite you. So I wasn't wearing my armor and I was just standing around and looking at my map, which is, you know, a good way to get bitten by a terror beak and to lose over half your health. Now, there's a little bit of light that the game puts in when you go from the caves to the surface or from the surface to the caves. There could be an argument made that it's a little cheesy to fight Terrorbeak in that light, because that light is, like, I don't know, not something that I did. It's something that the game put in for me. But I felt like it was fair. So we'll finish exploring this biome. I kind of had a feeling that the bee queen might be in this area. She always spawns in this type of like grassland, like the light green on the map kind of biome. Well, she wasn't up here, so if she is in this biome, it'll be the other arm of it. But there's also usually a few of these little grasslands, and she can be in any one of them. It's just always kind of convenient when I say this as if I'm like a veteran boss killer, but like oftentimes in videos of other people killing bosses, they're excited when the bee queen and the dragonfly are kind of nearby one another because you can have like your little pre-boss killing base sort of in between the two of them and not have to walk very far. You know, you can have crock pots and different stuff that helps you get ready for a boss fight, and you only have to go a short distance to go to either boss. Now I'm just like unable to find the torch in my inventory there, which really I should do better about that. You can use the number keys on your computer, or I have a mouse that has number keys built into it. So you can use those number keys to like activate the items on your inventory. So I should really just keep the torch in the first slot and then use 1 to like, you click the 1 key and then it'll just equip the torch. I might try that in a future playthrough or in a future, you know, step along this journey. Like the next time I play, I might try and do that. I'm trained myself out of putting anything important in the early item slots because there are frogs in the game, and the frogs, they lick you, and you drop whatever item is in your first item slot. And so I just stopped putting anything important there in case I get licked by a frog. The frogs aren't out and about in the nighttime. I mean, they normally spawn from these ponds, like over by where I found Chester, or like I'm kind of near right now. And they don't spawn at night, so there's really not any reason to build my whole playstyle around potentially getting licked by a frog, which even in normal runs I think has happened to me maybe twice in the past 30 runs. It's just not that common, but when I was very, very new at the game, it seemed to happen to me a lot, and so I've kind of trained myself in a way that is maybe counterproductive, and this could be a good way to break that training. Now I'm trying to gather enough gold and rocks to make the alchemy engine, which is the step above the science machine. The alchemy engine is required to craft things that are higher level than the science machine, and it also can craft all of the science machine crafts as well. So that's part of the next goals here, is to get an alchemy engine. So this biome is the mosaic biome, which is a pretty good source of rocks and gold. So I got lucky finding it right as I was looking for rocks and gold. Lucky 13 swings on a tier 2 tree. The normal character would knock it down in 10. Now these mole worms, you can see one scooting around up there. I just twisted the camera to see him a little better. They will eat any minerals on the ground. So the mosaic biome naturally spawns with a lot of rocks on the ground. And over time, the mole worms will kind of clear a lot of them out. So I try to look for the ones on the ground as I'm running past, rather than just mining the ones that are here in the rock formations. Because first of all, it's easier to just pick them up off the ground, but also I know that they will go away eventually because the mole worms will eat them. And I'm not 100% sure if you can get them back out of the mole worms. I think if you use a shovel to dig up the mole worms burrow, you might get some of the materials that's stolen back out of it, but I don't know. But I'm doing pretty well in my quest to get enough rocks and gold to make an alchemy engine. You need 2 cut stone for the alchemy engine, which is 3 rocks each, but then you need 2 more cut stone for the electrical doodads, and those need gold as well, and then you need 4 boards. So it's quite a bit of early game resources to get an alchemy engine. Now, in a lot of playthroughs, I will hammer down the pig houses. You'll see pigs, and they have their pig houses, and when you knock one down, you get 2 boards, 2 cut stone, and 2 pig skin. In a lights out playthrough, I don't think I'm going to do that because pigs are going to be pretty rare overall. They only come out in the day, so I'm not going to be able to just farm them, kill them over and over for, you know, a lot of pig skin, which I could use to make new pig houses and stuff like that. So I don't think I'm going to do that. Like I mentioned earlier, I could just go and kill the guardian pigs. They're a little harder to kill than regular pigs, the ones that have those torches, that is. They're a little harder to kill than the regular pigs, but, I mean, they're there, and they would drop similar items to the regular pigs. But, like I said, I don't want to do that, so I think I'm going to leave the pigs pretty well alone in this one. There's a few other ways to get pig skin. Ultimately, I'll probably have to make some helmets out of pig skin, and the hambat is a very good weapon that you can only make with pig skin. And the fact that it's going to be pretty rare in this playthrough, making those 2 items very rare is going to add some interesting changes to the playstyle, where you won't be able to just use helmets and hambats for every fight. You'll have to really put some thought into what weapons you're going to use. So now I'm kind of debating what I want to do here. I'd like to set up my alchemy engine. I think is the ultimate goal. I was debating if I wanted to put it over kind of near the dragonfly because of the magma pools, which I can use to stay warm in the winter. Now, I kind of decided not to because the tumbleweeds and the magma pools together are a very dangerous combination. A tumbleweed can roll over right next to the magma pool, then the tumbleweed lights on fire, then it rolls over next to your alchemy engine and it lights your alchemy engine on fire and it burns it down. So it's not very convenient early game. There are ways you can put up stone walls and stuff that the tumbleweeds won't roll through, and I don't know. I just don't think that that's necessarily what I need to be focusing my efforts on right now. So I'm just heading back kind of towards the center of the map. And I think that that's a good enough idea. So here's another Terrorbeak. Now that I have a weapon and armor, I'm feeling a little bit more confident in these fights. I still, with the Terrorbeak, don't do the early swing. There I just did it on accident, but I don't usually do that. I just do the dodge, swing type. And you'll probably see that I'm, like, getting some swings off in between, like right when Terrorbeak reforms after you hit it. Sometimes you can sneak an extra hit in on it if it reforms close enough to you. So I do that as well. So here's another wormhole, and I'm very curious to go through it, but I choose not to for right now. I really want to have a way to mark the wormholes. So normally I make a trap and I leave the trap on the ground, and I'll put it on a different side of the wormhole. So I'll have one on the let's say north. I mean, I never use the compass, so I don't know what's north, but I'll put one on the up, and then another one on the up, and then the next wormhole I find, I'll put one end of it on the right and the other end of it on the right. So then when I look at the map, I can see them, how they connect pretty easily. So I don't want to do anything until I can do that. These little hands are really annoying. They come and try to steal your fire, and you just have to chase them away. So I've made some boards and some cut stone, and then I'm going into the science menu. I'll make 2 golden doodads, and then that gives me enough. Well, nope, just kidding. So now I don't have enough boards. So I know that there's quite a few tree stumps here because this is where I started and I didn't have a shovel when I started. So I dig up the stumps, go back, and I am able to... Now I notice that I had these ropes in Chester and I spent resources crafting ropes that I didn't need to spend, so I frustratedly clicked them a lot of times in a row. So anyway, ropes, boards, alchemy engine. So I want to put it down here because I think that'll look nice and symmetrical, but I can't get it to work because of where that mushroom is. So instead I move Chester a little bit and then I put it up top here, and that looks nice and symmetrical. Now eventually I'll hammer over the science machine and I'll put the magic version of it over there, but for now I don't do that. So I'm making a miner's hat with a straw hat, a firefly, and a piece of gold. Miner's hat is great, love it. And then I'm gonna make the lantern. So I don't know, did I leave those boards or those ropes in Chester? Am I just making more ropes again? Either way, this is what I was talking about. I go back to the classic lantern skin, and then I have a lantern now, which you can see. I do a little demonstration here just to show off how they work. So here's the torch, here's a lantern, torch, lantern. You can see it's a much wider radius of light, and it's a little bit whiter in color of a light. Now I have the miner's hat on, and I can equip my axe and chop this tree at the same time. So that's very, very convenient compared to what I had to do, which was light nearby trees on fire with a torch. The lantern you can set on the ground, and it produces light from itself, so I can work in the radius of the lantern as well. And now each of these items, I'm not going to actually fuel them up because they're all pretty full on fuel, but each one you can fuel up with these light bulbs from the caves. So you just pick up the light bulb and hold it over top of the lantern or the miner's hat, and then it gives you an option to add fuel. But like I said, I don't need to right now. So I look around and see if maybe there's any other things that I want to craft right this minute. I might craft a fishing line, but I don't just yet. So here's the map so far. We've got our lantern and our miner's hat, so we're a little bit better of a foothold than we had on any of these other runs. By no means is this like a guaranteed victory, but it's definitely a start.